All right, tomorrow, the window opens for the franchise tag. I wrote something about this earlier today on PFT. It's a 2-week period. It goes up until 6 days before the launch of the legal tampering period. And I've had people tell me, and I'm sure I'll get text messages, even though I've already written about it. There'll be people who say, why do they have a 2-week window? People in the league, why do we have a 2-week window? We just need one day. It's a deadline-driven business. The deadline is all that matters. But there is one very important reason for applying the tag early. It operates as a keep away message to any team that might be inclined to try to tamper with that player at the scouting combine, because we know no matter what the league says, no matter what the league tries to do, Indianapolis is tampering central. There's no digital footprints. There are face-to-face meetings that happen every day, every night, every hour of the day between agents and teams. And there's no way to prove that tampering happened. So tampering happens. If you make tampering irrelevant by franchise tagging the player, then tampering doesn't happen. Chris Jones, if he's franchise tagged this week by the Chiefs, teams will know not to waste their time trying to put offers on the table unofficially for Chris Jones when he becomes a free agent, because he's not becoming a free agent. Now, maybe there could be some discussions about coming up with a tag and trade idea, a proposal that would be made to the Chiefs to try to get Chris Jones. But you know what? That helps the Chiefs if that's one of their possible outcomes, tag and trade. We don't want to let this guy walk away for a compensatory draft pick next year. We want to get something for him now. We'll tag him, and if somebody is willing to pay him what he wants and give us what we want, we'll do what we did with Tyreek Hill. As I pointed out, though, even though it worked with Tyreek Hill, he wanted a lot of money. They traded him instead. They've won 2 straight Super Bowls without him. Taking Tyreek Hill out of the Kansas City offense is a very different proposition from taking Chris Jones out of the Kansas City defense, because having a really good and very disruptive interior defensive lineman isn't something that you can easily replace or simulate by reallocating your defensive assets. It's a key piece. Micah Parsons talked about it recently with Stephen A. Smith. He wants somebody on that Dallas defense that does the kinds of things Chris Jones does. It's a rare talent. It's Aaron Donald. It's a guy that, number one, as Chris Sims likes to say, F's up the play by blasting through the line and just keeping the offense from doing exactly what the offense wants to do. And then the guy gets to the ball. He makes tackles. He is disruptive. He blows up a key third down in overtime when the 49ers are potentially going to score a touchdown and make it harder for the Chiefs to win the game. So, look, he's the big name to watch. The franchise tag for him is going to be just north of $32 million. Negotiations on a long-term deal are complicated by the fact that he's already been tagged before, so next year would be his 3rd tag. How do you negotiate a long-term deal when you know $32.16 million fully guaranteed? That's the starting point, because that's what he gets if he just takes the tag. And if he just takes the tag, he's got a free pass to unrestricted free agency next year, because the franchise tag for the 3rd time for Chris Jones would be ridiculously high, at least $46 million, maybe higher. So how do you turn that into a long-term deal? How do you work that out? That's why tag and trade is a possibility here. And that's why maybe a little tampering is helpful, because if I'm the Chiefs, I say, look, I'm not negotiating a long-term deal with Chris Jones based upon the tag this year and whatever the tag would be next year, $46 million. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to do it based on the market. So if you've already done your homework, if you know what the market would be if he's not tagged, if he's available for anyone to be signed, then that's where we should be talking. Part of the problem is getting to the truth in that regard. I mean, the agents have incentive to negotiate in a way that maximizes their client's recovery. The other teams that are interested aren't exactly going to put the cards on the table for the Chiefs, because, again, it's all tampering to do it. But that's really the measure. That's the metric. And that's what I think the foundation for a long-term deal would be. And also, hey, to the extent that alcohol is truth serum, it sounds like Chris Jones wants to stay with the Chiefs. And even though his agents tried to downplay the comments that Chris Jones made last Wednesday about being here this year, next year, and the year after, not wanting to leave, he said what he said. Regardless of what his BAC was at the time, he said what he said. And that plays in the Chiefs' benefit as they try to work out this deal and keep him around. Other names to watch as the franchise tag window opens: Baker Mayfield, the Buccaneers quarterback. And from his perspective, look, a one-year deal, 35, 37 million. We don't know what the number is going to be yet because we don't know the cap number yet. I'm going to be writing this afternoon on PFT that based upon some folks I've talked to, 242, 243 million per team is what it's believed to be. Once we know that, then we work backward to figure out the franchise tag numbers for most players. For a guy like Chris Jones, you don't need to do that because it's a 20% bump over his cap number of last year, which is more than what the franchise tag would ever be at his position. For Baker Mayfield, it'll be in that range of 35 to 37 million. Hell, if I'm him, I welcome that. That's the indication that his career has completely resurrected. Now, look, he could get more on a long-term deal, more guaranteed, more security, and they can negotiate a long-term deal after that franchise tag. But getting franchise tagged is a win for a guy that took a $4 million base salary last year when not a lot of teams wanted him. So, usually it's not good to be franchise tagged. There's a very thick silver lining if Baker Mayfield is franchise tagged because it represents that he has finally become the guy we kind of thought he was going to be in 2018. Man, 2019, not really. And then 2020, oh boy, he's on track to be a franchise quarterback. And then 2021, he had the shoulder injuries. Season got derailed. 2022 was a crap show. And 2023, he became the guy that we always thought he was going to be. And then the challenge becomes turning that into the long-term security that he surely believes he deserves. Other names to watch: Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, a couple of running backs who were tagged last year. Will they be tagged again? It's a 20% bump over their cap number from last year. At some point, you got to ask yourself, do we keep doing this? Will the Raiders do it again with Josh Jacobs? Will the Giants do it again with Saquon Barkley? There's a good chance one or both of those guys will become unrestricted free agents, and then we'll see what the market bears for guys in their late 20s who've got some wear and tear, not as much tread on the tires, at a time when you can draft a guy in round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, undrafted, who can come in and be a great player right away. T. Higgins of the Bengals, expected to be franchise tagged without a long-term deal. That complicates the effort to pay Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is going to want his contract sooner than later. He's eligible now. We'll see how that all plays out. And, the other guy to watch, Josh Allen of the Jaguars. He's been frustrated that there haven't been talks on a long-term deal. It looks like the Jaguars are just going to tag him and see what happens. But this goes back to a point that I'll make from time to time in the aftermath of the rookie wage scale from 2011. And that's something the league wanted. The argument was busts like Phillip Rivers. Not Phillip Rivers. Who am I thinking of? Ryan Leaf. Phillip Rivers was not a bust. Ryan Leaf is who I was thinking of. Same team that drafted him. Jamarcus Russell. Other players taken high who were getting a ton of money, and the money kept going up and up and up every year at a rate that exceeded the increase of the salary cap. Those players abscond with money they never earned. Okay, fine. Makes sense. Let's not let that happen. The problem is you got guys drafted high that earn it, and they don't get it. So they get a lot less for fear of busts walking away with money they never earned. You get guys who do earn the money, and then what do you got to do to get paid? Look at Josh Allen. Top 10 pick, finished his rookie contract, played his fifth-year option, still waiting for the reward that he would have gotten as the 7th overall pick if it had been pre-2011. Still made to wait by the Jaguars. And I remember interviewing the commissioner about this in 2010 when they were pushing for the rookie wage scale. Well, the other side of the coin is you've got guys who will have earned their payday. How do they get it? And he said something along the lines of, well, the teams will take care of their players. And well, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Some guys get contracts after 3 years. Some guys get contracts after 4 when they're first-round picks. Some guys got to play out the whole thing, all 5. And then they get franchise tag. And they don't get that shot at the big contract that they have clearly earned. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.